Welcome to the Speak Her Podcast with your host, Camille Essick, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Let's get started.
The Creative Connect is a 24-hour virtual assistant. Go to CamilleEssick.com and be sure to shop the collection with stock elements and so much more. Be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe. Now back to the Speaker Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. What I need you to do right now is hit that notification bell and subscribe. Follow me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm at Camille.Essick, and I would love to hear from you. Shoot me an email at thespeakerpodcast@gmail.com. Y'all, I have some amazing things coming out throughout the month of April, and I cannot wait to tell you about it. But without that, I'm going deeper into that right now. We're going to hop right into our episode with my guest tonight as we wrap up Q1. I know March is going by so fast, but guess what? The Martins are here. Wayne and Emily Martin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you all are so busy, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me. But let the listeners and viewers know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. You want to go first?
No,
or you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Let's see. So I'm Emily Martin. I am Wayne's wife of almost 13 years now. It will be 13 years in June. I am a child of the Most High God, most of all. And I am a wife. I'm a mother. I am a bonus mother. I am a corporate leader, corporate America. That's about all I can think of right now amongst all the other things that I do, a lot of community work and service. So, yeah.
All right. Well, my name is Wayne Martin. I am a son and follower of God. I am a happy, proud husband to Emily. I have 3 wonderful children. One is not a child. She'd probably be upset if you heard me calling her a child. She's 20. I have a 17-year-old son who's a teenager, of course. And then we have a 9-year-old. So I have children sort of in every stage of life, which is very interesting. Mm-hmm. It makes for an interesting dynamic, and it really is a large part of my life, right? I spend most of my days, following them around at their various stages of life. In business, I run a medical nonprofit. I also do a little bit of lobbying. I spent 20 years in corporate America, 20 years between government and corporate America as a lobbyist and government affairs professional. I have a small lobbying practice connected to my larger work, but most of all, I'm a servant of people. I love people, and I'm excited to be with you tonight, Camille.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. The reason why I invited you here, the both of you here to the show, is because with my demographic, there are just so many podcast conversations out there. There's a lot of toxic and misinformation regarding love, marriage, and relationships, even from air quote Christians perspective. And so one of the things I wanted to do, and we continue to do here, we have a series within the Speaker Podcast. It's called Heart and Soul, where I bring in and I discuss love, marriage, and relationships from the single perspective and the married perspective, and even so some of those that have been divorced, just to try to weed through some of the conversation and also get nuggets and wisdom from those that have already jumped the broom, so to say. And we're just always here to learn, just because within the Black community, particularly in the church, I think the statistic is over 50% of Christian marriages end in divorce. And so we're working to try to pull that together. Now, of course, the Speaker Podcast is the podcast where innovators and creators connect, and we do talk about entrepreneurship, business, etc. But on the other side of that, I also love to discuss faith, love, and relationships. And so you're here. So thank you so much for joining me. So first of all, how did the love story happen? Like, what is your journey? Did you shoot your shot? Like, what happened? Like, I would love to know, like, how did you all meet?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded statement. Ironically enough, we met at church. We were both attending the same church. So that's actually where we met. I wasn't interested at first. He pursued me for a while before I finally gave in, but I had just come out of a relationship, and I was just kind of in a space of not really wanting to date anybody, wanted to just kind of be by myself, have my peace of mind. And so, he asked me out several times for lunch, for dinner, for dessert, just everything. And I was like, no, no. I said no for a long time. And so he finally wore me down. He was absolutely persistent. He was absolutely persistent. And he used to joke with me all the time when I kept telling him no. And he'd say, but I'm me. He would say that to me all the time, just joking. And he always just kept me laughing. And we really built a friendship, a really, really solid friendship that is really has been the basis for our relationship and for our marriage. We just really started as friends and just really developed this strong friendship, which then eventually I decided to give him a chance and allow him to take me out. And so our relationship just started from there. And then we got married in June of 2012. Yeah.
Awesome. So what was it that attracted you to her? What was it about her? Like, because you hear so many variations of stories, like, oh, it was her eyes or her smiles, or so what was it about her? Like, I have to talk to her. I have to be in her space. I have to get to know her. And then the fact that it proves that if a man really wants you, even after the first no, he's going to persist.
Yeah, no, that's a great point that you ended with, and I'll start with that point and answer your question. When you know, the Lord has spoken to me, and said that you are to pursue her because she is the one. And so when you hear clearly from God, persistence is the order of the day. And I believe that in every area of life, but certainly as it relates to love and relationships, because who you are connected to, who you are yoked with, is absolutely critical to your everything, to your walk with God, to your outcomes in life. Um, I would not pursue after anyone that the Lord has not led me to or had not led me to. And that's why I was able to be persistent. In fact, when she got to the point of, by the time she got to the point of saying, yes, I'll give this an opportunity, I had gotten to the point of where it was like, if not now, then it's going to be in the future. So I'm okay with just being your friend. And so her yes actually shocked me because I had gotten to the place where I was content, right? Not complacent, but content with where she had decided. And I was just fine. I was like, I know what I heard God say, and I'm okay with that. And so when and you made a really good point. And that's a point I tell my female friends all the time, female family members, my daughter. If a brother really wants you, he is going to stop at nothing in the pursuit of you. Not the creepy stuff, stalking you and not that stuff, but pursuit in a godly way, in a respectful way, and most importantly, in a way that is very intentional.
That's so awesome. I love that. And just going through the journey, like once she finally said, yes, I'm going to take you out of the friend zone, as we call it, and just kind of pursue this and see what's going on. What was that space like for you, just from the church standpoint? Because you hear things about Netflix and chill and all this foolishness going on, like, or the big, like, Good Morning Queen, just all the stuff, all the things, right? So
Yeah.
did that look like for you, where you're getting to know each other, as the kids say, catching feelings, but then having to monitor boundaries that don't cross the line into where it's like, it's 10:30, like, going home, like, what are we doing? So, like, how did you navigate that space?
Yeah, it's about intentionality. I used the word intentionality earlier, and I just paid attention to her. And when you're talking to people, if you're really listening to learn and not necessarily listening to act, um, you will it will give you great results. I don't know another way to put it. I just used to listen to her. I found out she was a lover of music. I found out she was a lover of food and culture. And I found out that she has an eclectic personality that and I just began to be intentional about my approach in that way. I wanted to show her, and I'll end here. A side of Atlanta. Emily was fairly new to Atlanta when we first started dating each other. I had been less than a couple of years, maybe 2.5 years or so, and I decided that we would never eat in a chain restaurant. That we would go to these little bistros and these little places that she may or may not have been to, but she hadn't been to them with me.
Yep.
And then I would show her a good time. We went to one place that had chocolate chicken wings. They literally had chicken wings that were glazed in this chocolate sauce.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Those kinds of places, those kind of intentional things.
The real Atlanta.
Real Atlanta. Listening to her, learning her. That's how I pursued her in a godly way.
Yeah, and he called himself the ambassador to Atlanta. He said he was going to be my ambassador to Atlanta because where I lived was north Atlanta. So I was not really in kind of the metro area, and really only came into the city to go to church on Sundays and on Tuesdays for Bible study, and that was kind of it. I didn't really venture out much, especially not by myself. So there was just a lot of Atlanta I didn't see, I didn't know. And so it was fun. We just had fun. Like he would just take me to all these local restaurants and just, all these niche places that make Atlanta. And so I loved the adventure of it all. We just really had a lot of fun. And, we just really enjoyed each other. And I remember one of the habits that we started when we were dating that we literally do to this day, we would talk on the phone for hours. I remember one time, we were on the phone until the next morning. It was time for both of us to get up and go to work. Literally, I got off the phone with him and went and got in the shower and got dressed to go to work. And he did the same thing. I don't know what we were functioning off of back then, but we would talk all of the time for just hours about any and everything.
And we still do that.
And we still do that to this day. Like when he and I are both apart during the day at work or whatever, any free time, I'm calling him, he's calling me. We talk all the time. If he has to travel out of town or I have to travel out of town, we talk all the time the way we did when we were dating. And, there's a saying, the way things start, you have to continue that. And so I think that's one of the things that we have really continued throughout our marriage is we talk all the time. And I think a lot of that is because our relationship really was built on that foundation of friendship, where we just learned to talk about any and everything and laugh about any and everything or talk about nothing at all. It didn't even matter. We just liked talking to each other. So 13 years later, we're still doing that.
I love that. Like you're all talking because I'm a church girl, but I'm an R&B girl as well. Yeah. And so I'm like the 80s and 90s made me. So like you're talking all these songs I remember from high school, being on the phone, listening to Quiet Storm. Like I want to dedicate this song to, Oh my gosh, I love it. So when he was like introduced to Atlanta, I was thinking about Jermaine Dupri, Welcome to Atlanta. That's like I love it. And just the courtship of marriage. And I think that's something a lot of singles don't hear about is courtship doesn't stop after you say I do, but it continues. The romance, the courting and dating of marriage continues throughout the relationships. I really love that. So in that space, and you both touched on communication, how pivotal communication is. So when you're not always agreeing, because you have established this ground for communication, when you're not agreeing, doesn't make disagreement easier because you know how to communicate and you recognize each other's tones or nuances. Like how do you navigate those spaces? Because I've always heard like you can disagree, but fight fair and don't go into the vault, meaning don't go into places where I've confided secret things to you and weaponize that when we're not agreeing. Can you kind of explain that to those of us that are not married? Like, how do you navigate the space of resolving conflict, even if you agree to not agree, but how do you navigate that space?
Yeah.
No, I mean, communication is extremely important. And as important as communication is, communication style and understanding your partner's communication style is also important. Because I never had a problem with communicating. I literally talk for a living. And so I can talk to anyone or any person. I talked to a brother in the bathroom the other day. He had on the University of Georgia Law School shirt. And we ended up realizing that, he was 10 years younger than me, but we had a bunch of mutual friends because I opened my mouth and talked to him. But my issue was learning how to communicate in the correct style and learning that everyone's style is not my style. And respecting that. And so that is communicating is important, but it's as important to understand your style as it relates to other people's style and figure out what works effectively between the person you're trying to communicate to. In this case, my spouse.
And I would say for me, that was a huge area of growth for me. Like he can probably give you countless examples of, well, especially, the first few years of our marriage, if we were, having intense conversations, and I'm an introvert by nature. He's definitely an extrovert. He's a people person. I can kind of digress into my corner and be just fine. And so it was a huge learning for me, just learning it's not just me anymore. It's us. And so I had to learn how to effectively communicate with him, effectively work through conflict when I was very conflict averse. I just rather not deal with it. And he is more of, let's confront this head on, let's deal with this, let's address the issue. So that was definitely a challenge for me in the first few years of our marriage, and something that I really had to learn to work on, and just learn how to communicate to him in a way that gets my point across, but is also not disrespectful or demeaning or degrading, and learn how to deal with the issue, right? Addressing the issue and not attacking the person. So those were some really valuable lessons that I can say I did not walk into our marriage really effectively knowing how to do that. That was just an area of growth that he has really helped me a lot with over the years.
And nobody comes to a marriage fully equipped for anything. There are a lot of areas of improvement that I had. I had to learn how to, sometimes her methodology is effective. I wouldn't even say was effective. Sometimes it is effective to take a step back, to breathe, kind of consider the other person's perspective, on what led you to the confrontation or the disagreement, and then come back and speak with, level head, clear heads, and ready to really listen. And that's a part of communication that I had to learn. A large part of what I've done over the years is about persuasion. And so, persuading people, government officials or stakeholders with my children. Sometimes it's just about listening, hearing perspective, listening with intentionality to really hear that person's heart to find resolve in that way.
That's really good. While you were talking, I was just thinking about how when people are coming together, like you were saying, Emily, you're an introvert, I'm an introvert. I can be an extrovert when necessary. Then I get overstimulated. Then I'm like, I'm checking out. It's like, but I can turn it on, when I need to be. And then when I hit my limit, I'm out of there. And so with you, Wayne, being an extrovert, how do you all kind of manage that even at home, where it's like, if he's being talkative and maybe you're just being quieter, and then for him to understand, like, well, I know I didn't do anything. Maybe she's just having her me time moment. Like, how do you need each other in those spaces?
For me, it's weird. It's very weird because I'm very much an introvert. I tell people I'm an introvert functioning in an extroverted world. I'm married to an extrovert, but I also work in corporate America. I lead a team of people that are all across the country. So every day I have to be on. Every day I am presenting in meetings. I'm leading people. I'm facilitating all day, every day, just usually back-to-back meetings. My days can be anywhere from 5 to 10 meetings in the workday. So I have to be on. I have to be present. I have to, make sure that I'm excellent at what I do. And then, once I kind of zone out, I'm like, okay, I need a moment. But it's weird. I don't really need that with him. I think because we've just been, best friends. When I'm tired of everybody else, I can be exhausted and I'm talked out and met out and everything else. The first thing I want to do if I'm driving home from the office is call him and talk to him and tell him I'm so tired. I've had a long day. I had 10 meetings today. It was so exhausting, and just download to him and hear about his day and, chat during my drive, so he's that person for me that's, in my weirdness of, yes, I'm an introvert, but for him, it's never a time of I don't feel like talking to him or being around him. Usually when I'm my most exhausted and I'm most tired and I'm most drained, he's the person that I usually I want to be around, to just let my hair down, chill, relax, digress, unwind.
And for me, you just learn to adapt to the person that you're with, right? And that's where dating and relating intentionally comes into play, because those things are not just about you; it's about the other person. And so I just learned to um, adapt to that. I don't know another way to put it. I'm looking for a fancy word or a fancy way to say it, but I just learned to adapt. I read a lot. I love music, so it was nothing for me. We can be sitting in the same room, and if she's in a place she needs to decompress, she'll look at me, and I'll have headphones in, and I'll have a book open, and I'm just reading. We're just breathing the same air, and sometimes that's just good enough, to know that she's good, I'm good. Maybe we don't have to talk about a whole lot of things right now, but we're just breathing the same air, decompressing from our days, and just doing that together in total silence, or we could be talking or going about our lives or whatever. It's about adaptability.
Just power. I call it the power of presence. Just being in this space.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of single people now, especially with the rise of social media, it's really ruined communication. I was looking at something today, and they were saying for Gen Z, they were having classes to teach them how to talk on the phone because they had so much anxiety about the phone. And then, of course, I'm a Gen Xer. We're all in the comments like, this generation is, so feeble because we thrived on the phone, late night quiet storm. We used to make the notes, put them in the locker, check yes, check no, do you like me, the little origami, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I came from that generation. And so we thrived on communication. We were creative about how we communicated. I think we did even playing the telephone game. Like communication was a part of our childhood because we did not have electronics, And so when you see people texting paragraphs, and I have a thing, like after 4 or 5 exchanges, I'm not going to give myself carpal tunnel in my thumbs. We need to have a conversation because it's just too much. And I also feel that with texting, a lot can be lost in translation with tone, how you read it. Versus you're looking at the person, talking to them, you see the body language, all that encompasses how the messaging can come across. Just because with text messaging, if you're already walking an offense and with an offensive mindset anyway, and then you read the text, you're going to read it in the tone that you're offended in. Yeah, and so I just feel that having conversations kills a lot of offense when it comes to communication, whether if it's a platonic friendship or relationship. So I guess for you to, with just the power of presence, I guess my question is, doesn't that increase or enhance other ways you communicate and just recognizing each other, even spiritually, because us being saved, you should be able to know like something's not right, or you go into prayer, intercede for your person because now you're in proximity. You can pick up and feel feelings if they're irritated, annoyed, happy. Like you can discern those things, right?
No, absolutely. It's I'm very careful in comparing. A lot of people want to they act as if non-Christian centered relationships or non-Christ centered relationships and Christ centered relationships are the same, and they're not. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying they're different. And as a man in a relationship with a woman where Christ is the center of our relationship, you have to approach that relationship in the way that the Bible tells us to. And one of the sort of central scriptures that I follow is the Bible tells husbands to love their wives as Christ loved the church. And even when the church is acting a mess and acting crazy and all of that, we never saw Christ, we never saw Christ lash out at the church per se, right? We see Christ lashing out at, world-like structures, figures, and people, but never the church. There was always this loving, sort of tone and nature and all of those things. And that's really my compass, my North Star, my guiding post. Is just, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how right I believe I am, or sometimes I know that I am, I have to keep that as my North Star. And that is what keeps me grounded, and centered on, okay, this is the person that I'm building something with. We got history, but I've got to stay grounded. As much as I want to be, I kind of retreat into my corner, retreat into myself. I have to continue to pursue, and pursuit actually sometimes means humility. Really, really humbling down and really allowing humility to drive the day, and it sometimes brings about great peace.
I love that. And then this conversation, we're already 30 minutes in. It goes by so fast. So just out of respect of time, just one more question. We will have to bring you all back, you two back, to continue this conversation, because we're just scraping the surface. And I appreciate the nuggets and gems that you're giving to us. One last question is the importance of being the show, we have a thing we call the vault, meaning you are the safe space for your person, whether it's spiritually, things we share, and then also just not to weaponize those things down the road. It's something I shared with you in Pillow Talk, 2 months ago, and then you're like, that's why you peed in the bed when you were 14, and then you triggered, So it's just like, how do you navigate that space of being the vault for each other?
I think, trust is key to a successful marriage. If you don't have trust in each other, I just don't see how it can effectively work. I know for me, if I didn't trust him, it wouldn't work for me. It just would not work. And so I think trust is earned. And once you've earned each other's trust, it's important to keep in mind how valuable that is and to guard that accordingly. And so for me, that's what easily for me makes him my vault and vice versa. We can talk about anything, and we talk about anything and everything. It could be something that's super, super serious. It could be something that's super, super silly, but just knowing that we have that openness in our relationship and that we have that trust, and that the things that we share, anything that needs to be confidential, is going to stay confidential between us. And I just think that that's important for our marriage and for the success of our marriage, for us to have that trust between us so that we can have that openness in our communications with each other, and just the confidence that, if I'm sharing something with him that needs to be kept confidential, that he's going to do that, and it'll just be the two of us that will, talk about it and discuss it, and that we don't use that information to weaponize each other.
I think trust and honesty go hand in hand. Even in the tough conversations, you've got to be honest with each other. And I'm not talking about, some people use honesty, sort of in place of, boldness, and they're not always one and the same.
Right.
But I think you got to be honest with one another and tell those hard truths to each other, because sometimes either partner can be going off on a tangent and really going on a wrong road. And it's up to you as a place of love, a safe place to tell the truth and be honest. And I think that builds up what Emily was talking about, the trust factor, which sort of reinforces the vault, right? And when love is real, you never say things to hurt your partner. I just don't believe that, and even when, and that works both ways, right? Even when you think something was said to be hurtful, sometimes we're just kind of walking in the spirit of offense, and it wasn't said to be hurtful, but you are in the spirit of offense at that moment, and so that's what you took it as such. And on the other side, when you're saying a certain thing, you're never saying it to be hurtful. And I think that's how you create a safe space, a vault, and everything, as Emily shared, is really built around that trust that comes from those things.
I like that a lot. So before we wrap up things here, First of all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down and share with us. I guess will be part one of our conversation with the Martins. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Before we move out and close out this conversation, do you have any gems, nuggets, or takeaways that you have for the listeners and viewers? And then also where people can contact you on social media.
Takeaways.
I got two totally unrelated things to share. The first thing is about relationships. I learned this very recently, something that sticks with me. It is when you're in a relationship with someone else, conflict's going to arise. That conflict should never be viewed as you and your partner against each other. It should be you and your partner against the issue. And if you look at everything through that vantage point, no matter what it is, if it's me and her against the issues and not me and her on opposite sides of the issue, I believe you can navigate it successfully every time. The other thing I wanted to share is completely unrelated to having a happy relationship. It is all about the fact that I am seeking elected office for Atlanta City Council District 11. You can go follow me at Wayne Martin ATL on Instagram, or just Wayne Martin on Facebook. And so I'm looking forward to having communications with folks and conversations with people that live all over the city, but particularly those that live in District 11 in Southwest Atlanta. Thank you, Camille.
You're welcome. Anything with you, Emily? Do you have coming up projects?
We are fully in campaign mode, campaign season. It is all things campaign right now. So of course, it's definitely keeping us busy, but I definitely echo everything that he says. I think you shared my social media handle on the screen as well. On Instagram, it's EM_M_Martin. And then I think it's M Martin on Facebook. So I can be found at either one of those.
Awesome. And I would love to have you all back. Although I'm not an Atlanta resident yet, it is coming. But I'm like, even if I'm not there at the time, I would still support you in your campaign to discuss issues, especially right now with so much foolishness going on, to debunk the junk and get the word out, and also to push, because I do have a lot of supporters there within the metro, and I'm learning the terminology, the metro. So, so I would love to open up my space to support your campaign throughout the year and future as well. And
all right, I appreciate
it. Absolutely, y'all people now. So with that being said, y'all, I hope you got something from this conversation. Be sure to follow me online. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I have some things rolling out throughout the month of April. Stay tuned for that. You can hit me up at thespeakerpodcast@gmail.com, and all the wonderful things. I'm working to become the creator's creative, and you can go to my website at CamilleEssick.com, subscribe, and stay in the loop. Y'all sit tight while we wrap up. This is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Have a safe weekend. I will see you all very soon. We have a really awesome lineup as we kick off the month of April. Y'all, going into Q2. Y'all be blessed, be safe, no texting and driving. See y'all later. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Speaker Podcast. Be sure to follow Camille on Instagram at Camille.Essick, Facebook at the Speaker Podcast, or